I'd like to call the meeting of the Jersey Area School Board of Directors for May the 8th, 2023 to begin. Roll call.
Mr. Allen.
Present.
Mrs. Calhoun.
Here.
Ms. Dobler.
Here.
Ms. Edwards.
Here.
Mrs. Grant.
Here.
Mr. Kinley.
Here.
Mrs. Petrosky.
Here.
Mrs. Stemler.
Here.
Mrs. Thomas.
Here.
All 9 members present.
Next is Pledge of Allegiance.
I'd like to recognize Mr. Jean and Amelia Arenas and Stella Hilty, who are going to lead us in the pledge. Come on up.
To the flag
Marina.
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, girls. I have something for you. And then please stand there with Mr. Jean so that we can get your picture, okay? You're fine. And I do know that they told me I messed up a name. I'm sorry, but I'm just looking at what's on my list. Okay. We'll correct it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, before we get started on personnel, letter D, we are removing letter H. Personnel, letter D, we are removing letter H. Next, communications, Dr. Ulmer.
There's 2 things I want to point out tonight. First of all, she wasn't able to be here with us, but Kendall Eichenlaub is our school board rep. She's usually sitting over there. She's not here tonight, but I wanted to point out that this weekend, she was with our band at the Atlantic Coast Championships, and she actually won the award as the best vocalist at the Atlantic Coast Championship. So congratulations to Kendall. Also, don't forget that this is an important week. This is Teacher Appreciation Week, started today. So as you go throughout your week, please make sure to recognize our teachers who do a fantastic job. Teacher Appreciation Week started today, so I'm just reminding everybody that that's happening. That's all.
An executive session was held before the meeting at 5:45 for the purpose of legal, personnel, and safety. There will be an executive session after this meeting for personnel. And now I'm going to make a statement about graduation requirements.
What's that?
Is that the big projector?
No, I did not. When it's coming. Hold on.
This is basically for a clarification. There seems to be some misinformation, and I do have it for it to be projected.
There you go. Sorry, that was my fault.
Somebody will need to follow and do that. I'll do it. Many times we have heard during courtesy of the floor and letters to the editor that Pennsylvania only requires 21 credits for high school graduation. This is an incorrect statement. It was true at one time, but much has changed since then. I'm going to give you an update with the current correct information. The state no longer requires a specific number of credits. It is more geared towards knowledge and proficiency of the standards in which credits are a part. Pennsylvania governs graduation requirements from the Pennsylvania School Code of 1949 and all its amendments, Title 22 under Chapter 4. Actually, Pennsylvania no longer lists a credit requirement, but instead, general, beginning in 2022-2023 school year, each school district, charter school, including a cyber charter school, shall adopt and implement requirements for high school graduation that is at minimum includes. Number 1, course completion and grades. This is where you usually get your credits from, and they're where they're identified. 2, demonstration of proficiency as determined by the school district in each of the state academic standards not assessed by a state assessment. 3, demonstration of proficiency or above in each of the following state academic standards: English, language arts, and mathematics through June 30th, 2025, science and technology and environmental and ecology, and beginning in July 1st of 2025, science, environment, and ecology as determined through any one or a combination of the following. A, completion of secondary level coursework in English, language arts, literature, Algebra 1 and biology, in which a student demonstrates proficiency on the associated Keystone exams or through a pathway. B, locally approved and administered assessments which shall be independently and objectively validated once every 6 years. So let's take a look at Lycoming and Clayton County. Understand that a school that has 7-period teaching day, or a maximum of 7 credits possible each year, has the potential for students to complete 28 credits in their 4 years of high school. East Lycoming, South Williamsport, and Williamsport have 7 teaching periods, or 7 credits per year. Potential of 7 credits. Their graduation credit requirements are East Lycoming is 25 credits, South Williamsport is 24 credits with some minor adjustments for CTE students, and Williamsport is 23 credits. Those that have an 8-period teaching day, or a maximum of 8 credits possible each year, have the potential for students to complete 32 credits in their 4 years of high school. A couple of schools do block scheduling, 4 credits each semester, still a total of 8 credits per year. Jersey Shore is 27 credits, Keystone Central 28 credits, Loyalsock Township 28 credits, Montoursville 26 credits, Montgomery 26 credits, Montoursville 26 credits, and the Sugar Valley Charter School 26 credits. As you have heard, none of the schools in our area require 21 credits. They all require more. Those that have an 8-period teaching day have 26, 27, or 28 credits. Jersey Shore is in the middle with 27 credits. Jersey Shore at one time had 30 credits. So over the years, there have been adjustments. This should clarify that Pennsylvania does not require 21 credits, nor does any of our surrounding school districts. The state also identifies these graduation requirements as a minimum for a school district. IU, Jesse?
I would like to yield my time.
You don't have any? Okay,
No,
fine.
because I don't have anything.
And the student rep is not here today, and so now we're on to the superintendent's report.
I'm going to start by recognizing Serena Henry and our winter sports state qualifiers, as well as she'll be bringing up our winter sports coaches. Oh, I can help you with that. Why don't you, Mr. Bischoff is here, so why don't we start with him?
All right.
Is there anything you'd like to say about
The season?
the girls you have with you today?
Well, yeah, I mean, Rachel's my last senior, or she's my only senior this year. We have 3 other girls, Jocelyn McCracken, who ended up being second team all PHAC. Kaylin was also second team for the conference, and then Peyton finished as the conference MVP and ended up being our first player, boy or girl, to get all-state first team. So it's been quite a season, and the community really bound together to help us with food and support, so we really appreciated that.
Thank you, girls.
Thank you.
Don't leave, Mr. Bischoff. I'm going to have you stand there, and Dr. Rosenbach is going to get a picture of all of you. Go ahead.
Not basketball. Swimming.
Yep, go ahead, and then we'll get you in the picture.
That's right. Thank you for recognizing our winter athletes. I really appreciate it. They all worked very hard this season. Particularly our swimmers. I pushed Reese a lot this season, as all of my swimmers, but she had a lot of unrealized potential, especially in the backstroke. She rose to the challenge, and we worked really hard, and she dropped 12 seconds in her 100 backstroke. And to win gold at the districts in the 100 back, she also placed high enough to get to states in her 50 free. This was our first district gold since Jordan O'Connor won the 100 backstroke in 2020, so it's very impressive.
Our wrestlers are busy people, but their
Yes.
coach is here.
I'd just like to thank the board for recognizing student athletes. This year, we had a couple kids make it to states, which was phenomenal. We have a small team, but a really good quality of team. So we had one kid place fourth at states and two kids qualified for states. Really good athletes. Not only are they athletes, but they're actually honor students as well. So they're pretty good at in the classroom as often. Both of my kids that made it to states are actually going on to play sports in college. So pretty excited about that. One's going to Rutgers and the other one's going to Lock Haven to play baseball. So other than that, I thank you guys for taking your time to recognize our athletes.
Thank you all.
Good job.
And since you're standing, we'll move right on to you. We're going to move on to Serena Henry to present, and you have in front of you copies of the presentation that she's going to give about volleyball.
All right. It has been brought to my attention from both high school and middle schoolers that there is an interest of volleyball, creating a volleyball team for here at Jersey Shore. So this is what we're going to work on for tonight. I surveyed the high schoolers, and so I sent them out an email survey to 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, and I asked them, are you a current student athlete? And if they were, what season did they participate in? And then I asked them an open-ended question because I didn't want them to be persuaded by a list of sports. I wanted them to tell me what they wanted. So those responses came out. I had 166 student replies. 9 of them were athletes, and 67 of them were non-athletes. Volleyball was the #1 requested sport by 63 students. 42 were non-athletes and 21 were athletes. And that, the recognition of the non-athlete is what we are aiming for, to get more athletes out and not take away from the sports that we already have in place. Like, so volleyball is a fall sport, and it would affect the girls in tennis and the girls in soccer and cross country. So that number of having 42 non-athletes wanting volleyball is a good sign that it's wanted within the student body. So the other PIAA sports that were requested was lacrosse, field hockey, bowling, diving, and rifle. And then we had 11 non-PIAA sports. So the benefits of volleyball, to have a team and have our students start participating in it, it teaches them teamwork and communication. It's a great so.cial activity. It improves hand-eye coordination, reflexes, and balance. And it can improve mood, relieve stress, encourages pride in your accomplishments. So, I forget what I was going to say. I guess that added thought didn't matter then. The volleyball information around for us to participate in, PIAA has it as a sanctioned sport. It's for the girls' season is in the fall, and this is what we're focusing on, girls volleyball for varsity and JV during the fall season. And the rules are followed by the NFHS rules, like the rest of our sports. So in the PHAC, We are going to be sanctioning it as a PHAC sport with a league championship. In the year of 24-25 school year, there will be a sports chair assigned, and an official signer will also be assigned. So this coming fall in the 23 school year, there's 7 schools, 7 PHAC schools, which qualify us for a league championship. And then in fall of 24, there'll be additional schools. There are about 6 additional schools coming on, including us. And then we will all be introducing volleyball around the same time, which is a really great platform for us to start on. This way, we're not trying to play catch up. Our kids are all learning at the same. Is that me or? Okay. Our kids are all starting all the same. All the schools are starting around the same time period. So there's not a school that has a greater advantage and more experience and a foundation already built and building upon, where we're all going to be building our foundations at the same time. So this is a very unique opportunity for us to jump in with the rest of these schools and have the same competitive advantage as all the rest of them. Some of the central PA schools, this is not a complete list of them, but these are some of the schools that we play in regular competition with some of our other sports. And Wellsboro, Troy, North Penn, Liberty, Tyrone, Bellefonte, State College, Bald Eagle area, Huntington, Hollidaysburg, Penns Valley, South Williamsport. So it's in our surrounding area and the schools that we already participate competition in. So what makes us want to do this? So when you look at our Title IX numbers, there is a 3-pronged test, and I gave you those you should have those, yes. And it breaks down all the details to the 3-pronged test on how you determine if you're compliant or not. So on the unduplicated test, that means we're counting every athlete once. We're not counting fall athletes, winter athletes, spring athletes, which could end up with a count of one athlete being 3 times. We're only counting them once. So it's a ratio of the one athlete to the ratio of our enrollment. And currently, that percentage comes out that makes us non-compliant because we have a 55% of boys and a 45% of girls. That would come much closer to a 50-50 percentile if we would add 24 members of a varsity JV volleyball team. Does anybody have any questions before I get into numbers? You should have also received a information page that also explains this at the beginning of March. So the budget numbers, as I put it together, this is what I presented Dr. Almer and Ben with when I presented my budget last fall. And this is what it looked like. I plugged in all the numbers and it broke it down for what salaries and stuff would cost. I compared the coaches' salaries to the soccer salaries because they run the same timeline. They start the same day, they run through October into November with championships and state playoffs. So it's a similar season if you're putting in the time and effort for coaching. The difference would be soccer plays 18 games and volleyball plays 22 in a season. And we would play this in our high school gym. So general supplies, under general supplies, the $8,500 it includes our startup equipment and uniforms to get everything ready to go. We could earn income from this from approximately 11 home games where we could charge admission into the high school gym. Currently, we charge $5 for adults and $3 for students for the similar of a varsity JV basketball and wrestling admission prices. So these numbers could be slightly offset. Then, the facility expense would be, when we redo the high school gym floor, we would add post inserts. So this would be on the main gym floor, where you pull out the big bleachers and the little beach bleachers, and we have the main basketball court right now. So we would center it in the middle of that court, and we would line the floor. So right now it is not lined. So that would be the expense when we refinish the floor and take that layer off, put the lines down, and then refinish it for the season. That's, that does not have to be done today. Currently, what we would do was we have a floor set up where the big bleachers sit when you pull the when you pull the big bleachers out. Underneath that, if you leave them recessed in the wall, there is a floor set up to play volleyball there. So we could use that until it is the next round of getting the floor done and applying those numbers to that, getting it done at that point. So that would get us through, if we're doing it every 2 years and say you do it this coming summer, that would get us through a season of having it set up that way, and then we would move it to the main gym as that would come through with that. So that brings me to questions.
Questions from the board? Feedback on what you would like to do next with this information.
I'm willing to negotiate here to make this happen. So if we took and did the plan, I envision that I take the $8,500 for setup equipment and have that in this coming school year budget for the 23-24 school year. I buy all the equipment that we need and get that all up and running. Make sure the uniforms are ordered because they're about 6 months out. Make sure we have all our equipment. And then beginning of the next year, starting in 24, advertise for a coach, get a coach in place, and then they can do off-season workouts, get their feel for their team, have kids come out, try out, and then we would start competition the following school year, where that would pull out $8,000 out of that budget, but the rest of the coaches' salaries and everything would be in there. So it'd be closer to about $31,000 total with coaches' salaries, benefits, and the transportation, cost of officials, the same as any of our other sports. Yes.
The retirement and social security numbers appear to be awfully too high. Is that maybe a misprint?
It could be. I cut and pasted from another one and added it into my budget worksheet. So they might have been,
I mean, the retirement is almost 100% of the salary. That's what I question.
that might be an incentive for a coach.
Yeah, it looks like it's a typo. So I guess from my perspective, is the board interested in, based on what I just heard in the timeline and the plan, do you want to see that on paper to put in front of you to act on, or not?
This is a clarification, so you're saying that we would start this sport in 24, 25?
Yes, fall of '24, we would have a roster for volleyball.
So for the 23-24 budget, you're asking for 8,500
Yes.
to start it.
Yep.
What would you anticipate the ongoing supplies expense to be, just roughly? You have any idea?
It would be we would be replacing balls, possibly replacing nets, depending on how the wear of that would go. But a lot, the replacement, the 8,500 is a lot of your hardware, the posts that you use, and your ball carts, your official stands, your padding. So a lot of that is consumed in unless we have something break or wear out in time. But a lot of it's just replacing your balls for the season. And, because you would, after being practiced, we replace every sport gets new sports balls every year. So, they wear and tear a lot on them. So that would probably be your most reoccurring. And they're about $60 of something volleyball.
Just so you're aware, I know Mark presented in his budget, we do have the funds budgeted to have the floor lined and set up properly the floors are scheduled to be done this coming summer. We added that cost into the cost to redo the floors.
Is there any chance that the floors would have to be redone more often with this sport being implemented to the gym? Because there's going to be more traffic on there.
We have a lot of traffic on the high school gym.
Yeah, but they're not jumping around and doing what volleyball players would do, right?
Well, our gym classes all include like net sports. So they're doing a lot of badminton and pickleball and volleyball, different types of volleyball in the gym classes now. So there's a lot of net sports that happen as is. So it would be, you have a 10-week competition season, and you have a 2-week prior, or 2-week preseason, 10-week competition season, then depending on whatever your season would look like afterwards. But currently, we have basketball in all year round. We have cheerleading in almost all year round, plus over top of the gym classes. There would be an increase, but I don't know if we would actually see that much of a dramatic increase. And the floors, from what I understand from Mark, that the floors are rescheduled every 2 years to be resurfaced anyhow.
I'm just trying to clarify if we would have any extra costs in this in the future.
I have a question for Ben. Mark, when he budgeted for the lines for volleyball, was that around 4,000?
6,500.
For just adding the volleyball lines?
Yeah, I believe it was 6,500 for the lines, and I also believe they need to, add the
Post holes.
The post holes, thank you.
Okay, all right. All right, 60. So financially, can I ask you, do you think this is feasible?
So you have $1,000, sorry, budgeted for next year to get the sport up and running. I think Mr. Kinley had a valid point there with the ongoing supplies question. And, I mean, you're gonna have added cost. Is it gonna be $39,000 every year? No, it should be 30, probably my guess is around 20. Looking at the current listed teams, the one thing I noticed was that there was only one Lycoming County team, which means your contracted carrier cost is going to be higher, because you're gonna be traveling much further. You're talking Troy, Penns Valley, Hollidaysburg, Tyrone, Bellefonte. So, do you know
Those ones-
who's joining?
So in the PHAC, we have Williamsport, Shamokin, Hughesville, Loyalsock, Midwest, Central Mountain, Danville, and Lewisburg. Those are our 7 or 8 PHAC teams currently on. I have Montoursville's in the talking of it. Central Columbia's talking fall of '24. Mount Carmel, they co-op with Lady of Lords, and Bloomsburg's in the process of talking about it. Then, let's see, not on the list, Juniata, East Juniata, and Canton, they're further away, but they also, all the rest of them are, all the rest of the schools that we have them are further than what we travel on an average day.
Just a,
Is that you?
yeah.
Go ahead.
The gymnasium is kind of a hot commodity to come across currently. Would this be able to mesh in with other sports, or are we going to have one more team going, where are we going to practice? We can't, because, I mean, if it's, we have to have a net, we have to have the stanchions to hold the net. We can't just shove them to, you know, Saldiesburg Elementary to
When
practice.
we put them there, that's where they're gonna be.
So what other sports are going to be overlapping practices, that sort of thing in the gymnasium?
So the time frame, there's not a competitive sport in the gym in the fall season. And say we go the whole way and win the PIAA state championship, their season ends before basketball would start. The practices, so the main priority for the gym then would be the volleyball through the fall season. Basketball would have to do evening practices, cheerleading would have to do evening practices after that.
Is volleyball, Serena, just a varsity sport?
At this time, it's varsity and JV.
Okay.
Eventually, I would like to see it, but nobody else in the PHAC is adding in middle school at this time. But eventually, I
You
feel
only
that,
mentioned varsity that I see here.
Yeah.
I was wondering if.
so, this is only for varsity and JV at this time.
Okay.
But I won't lie that eventually I could be back to add in middle school. I don't see it in the next 5 years, I'll say.
So I just want to clarify, the schools that you have listed here, the central PA schools, they've already gone through the approval process and are ordering things, they're not where we're at now.
No.
So these are definites.
The ones that you saw on the list there and have there, they have a schedule and they are participating. They participated this last fall, they're participating next fall.
And to Ben's point, is that we haven't left out anybody. South Williamsport's as local as it gets, right?
Central Mountain, South Williamsport,
But not approved, correct?
South Williamsport is, Central Mountain is, Loyal Sock is. Are you considering like local, like central, or from like Central Mountain to Montoursville?
Within a 30-minute radius, what do we have?
So, that would be it. Montoursville's looking at picking up. Hughesville's outside of that 30-minute. The rest are our schools that take us out longer than, that do on an everyday basis. Like we play these same schools in football, the same schools in baseball and softball, and so it's not any different of a travel than the sports that are already in place. We live on the far side of the PHAC.
Thank you.
Other questions? So I'm gonna go back to my question. Do you wanna see a timeline like Serena presented with what this would look like with costs? Yes or no?
Well, it doesn't hurt us to look at that.
I'm
You
concerned
know,
about the
that's a
reoffense.
definite, you need to know all of that, and these numbers are not necessarily correct. So that we get an idea.
So you wanna see
Realistically.
a timeline with costs associated and recurring costs, but not take action on an agenda yet?
I think that's where I'm at.
Not committing to that, I'm not.
after seeing the information, I just want to be able to have enough time to go over it again.
What was
So a
that?
timeline with costs that they can look at.
I said after your presentation, I just wanted to be able to take a look and look it over again, and if I have any
Okay.
other questions before we ask you to do a lot of research and work and come up with anything, if that's okay with the rest of the board.
And Michelle, don't forget to talk into your mic so they can hear it,
I will.
so they can hear at home.
So I did add in my athletic bid, I did add in the volleyball information of the materials we would need to put it out for bid. And that's, can always be said no when that bid comes in, that we just don't want to purchase those items at this time. But I did put that out so that we could be proactive on not waiting to, and get the better price for it at that point.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Gershom is here to talk about FBLA.
This one is okay.
Always a pleasure.
Here's your PowerPoint.
While the ladies are walking around and introducing themselves, just want to thank the community, want to thank the board, want to thank administration for supporting Jersey Shore Senior High FBLA this year. I'm not going to steal our officers' glory this evening, but I do want to mention we do have some new officers who are freshmen that are going to be sophomores next year. Ladies, if you'd like to stand up, they're going to be part of our officer team this coming year. So we're excited about Zara and Lucy joining the officer team, and then we'll have some information to share about a special young lady there. I'll let the officers do that. So again, thank you so much for your support. It's awesome and a privilege to be their advisor, and I'm looking forward to making it bigger and better every year that we're in this. So go Dogs.
Okay, so good evening. My name is Rachel Orson, and this is Jocelyn McCracken, and we will be giving you a brief overview of our success with Future Business Leaders of America, otherwise known as FBLA.
So this year, as you can see on the board, we had 65 active members in our high school chapter, and this was due to a large middle school chapter. We strive to increase our membership each year.
So a few of the ongoing projects that we always help with was the We Shore Care Project, the Dog Pound Coffee Shop, and this year we also did something new and helped Bulldog Nation. The We Shore Care Project is a partnership with the New Love Center, which allows to give our community members a better idea of the struggles of food insecurity in our area, and it also gives our chapter members an opportunity to give back to the community. The Dog Pound Coffee Shop is a partnership with the Life Skills students, which allows both groups of students to come together and achieve a common goal. It also gives the life skills students an opportunity to get a feeling for what the work environment entails. With the Bulldog Nation, we helped by spreading school spirit throughout the whole community to make sure our community was aware of our successes at the high school. A few of the annual events that we always help with was the Harlem Wizards game, which took place on March 28th of 2023. This brought in many community members and was very successful. We also tried something new this year, and we had a senior citizens electronic class. The main focus of this class was to give the senior citizens a better idea of how technology works and get them to be more tech savvy. We also had a few members go to the YWCA for their Christmas party. We had our members spread Christmas joy and try to put a smile on everyone's face they saw. Another thing that we also help with are the 7th and 8th grade tours. This allows the students at the high school to give advice to the upcoming 7th and 8th graders and give them an idea of what really happens within the high school.
So this year, we did not only have local success, but we also had state success. We had 52 of our members go and compete at the Region 7 conference. 32 of these members were able to compete at states, and they went to Hershey, PA to do so. 6 of these individuals in one team were able to place in the top 10 in the state, and we also had 1 individual be able to qualify for nationals.
So the future of FBLA is very, very bright in our eyes. We hope to continue to impact the community in a positive way, create strong leaders and students, and to also instill good qualities and virtues into members that can be used for life after graduation. We thank you for our ongoing support for this chapter. Okay, I don't know what that is, but I don't know if you guys have any questions or not, but.
Before we end, with us, we have Emily Stevenson, who will be representing Jersey Shore FBLA at Atlanta this summer in the event of business communications. She'll be competing, representing Pennsylvania and also Jersey Shore High School.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good luck, Emily.
Thank you.
Thank you.
While Mr. Enders is getting ready, there are 2 job descriptions attached to tonight's agenda. They're there for presentation only. You're not acting on those yet. Please review them. If you have questions or suggestions or things that you notice, please let me know prior to the next meeting, and we will put those on the next meeting for approval. Again, those are just updates to job descriptions that are attached tonight for presentation, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Enders to present the district budget and revenue update.
So I will be going down through the bullet points on the Word document. I'm going to start with the budget summary. So let's first talk about the current year, 22-23. Right now, the current year is showing essentially a break-even year. We have a small surplus of $34,000. Within the projected expenditure, there's a projection of doing a capital projects transfer like we've done every year for the past couple of years. We would do that as we did this year after the audit was finalized. I'm going to focus a lot on revenue. We're seeing some significant growth in our revenue, in our local revenue in particular. I've already provided the board the update of what happened with the state revenue this year in reference to the state budget being passed. So you're well aware of that. But we're seeing some significant growth in our earned income tax revenue. That is right now trending about $450,000 better than budget. And the other area is interest. And right now that's trending about $200,000 better than budget. Like I said, I've already provided you the information on the state budget. That's come in about $685,000 above budget. Expenditures are essentially flatlined. They're coming in right where we budgeted. Now on to 23-24. I've taken the revenue that we're seeing this year and projected that out to next year. So once again, there is a 4.82% increase in revenue over the current 22-23 budget. There's significant adjustments to both earned income tax and to the interest earnings. We are continuing to do investments. We will probably do another investment this week. I am seeing a rollback of interest rates. So we are locking in interest rates now than when we can get them. From what I'm seeing with the rates we're getting, I think in a year we potentially will be seeing interest rates lower than where they are right now. The state revenue in the budget from the get-go has been set at the governor's proposed amounts that he provided in February. Currently, the 23-24 budget is showing a deficit of approximately $500,000. Expenditures are up over the 22-23 budget, about 2.78% overall. We're seeing several areas where inflation is definitely happening. and some areas was just general growth in cost. Our charter school increased $145,000 for next year. That increase is solely related at this point in time to an increase in the projected tuition rate for next year. That does not project any increase or decrease in enrollment in the charter schools. We also are having seeing about $250,000 increase in our special ed contract. That will be coming before the board, probably at the next board meeting, if not definitely the first meeting of June. The primary reason for that is we are the primary utilizers of the IU classes that we put in our buildings. So we've added several IU classes in the buildings, and we are placing students in those classes. Other items you're going to see this evening that you're going to approve is we have paper on the agenda tonight. Our paper is up 56% from where we bought it 2 years ago. We skipped the current year because costs were through the roof, and they did decrease slightly, but they didn't decrease back to the 21, 22 levels. We bought a truckload of paper in 21, 22 for $20,000, and you're going to approve it tonight for $30,000. I've already provided the board, there's a 6% increase in health insurance. You also are aware that the retirement contribution rate went down from 35.26% down to 34%. Taxes. Right now, the budget reflects real estate taxes at the rebalance rate. I provided you with our spreadsheet that goes down through essentially what I call the 7 options you can do with real estate taxes. Do no increase to Lycoming County. You can put Lycoming County at the rebalance millage rate. A no increase to Clinton County. And then we did incremental 25, 50, 75, and full index. 25% of the index, 50% of the index, 75% of the index, and then full index. At this point in time, Dr. Ulmer and I have met and discussed this. We are recommending a real estate tax increase of 25% of the index. That is 1.4% to Lycoming County and 0.17% to Clinton County. I provided you an updated document, the impact on tax bills, various dollar amounts. Just for example, a tax bill with a $100,000 assessed rate, that would be a $26.54 increase for Lycoming County and a $2.32 increase to Clinton County. If you would raise taxes to 25% of the index, that would generate additional revenue in the budget of just shy of $200,000. Do you have any questions?
I have a question. I don't know if you can answer it, though. Dr. Ulmer, do we have programs in the school district that the IU run that we don't run? Or do we run all of them?
So there are IU programs in the district that they are running. I think what you're asking is some of the kids are ours and some are not.
Yes.
Yes, so
Okay.
there definitely are programs that are housed here that they are running, they're their programs. We may have kids there, but they're not all of our kids.
Right.
And I have had that conversation with the IU about that increase. And remember that they're a fee for service, so
Yes.
if we're using it, they're setting the rates. So it is all largely based on their costs. So when their cost goes up, You're the consumer, you're paying the increased cost. It's not like they have additional money.
No, yeah.
That they're offsetting the cost. So that's what you're seeing, is costs are increasing and they're increasing the bill.
Right, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you. That's it.
So
Other, go ahead.
yeah, the deficit, after we plug in the real estate tax increase of the 25% index, now we're down to about 300,000
Yes,
as far as the deficit.
yes. And we would use, various fund balances to make up that deficit. We do have, 9 teacher replacements. We have, let me back up. We have 9 teachers removed from next year's budget, with 6 being replaced. And that was of the result of you guys doing, option C at the last meeting. So I want to be very clear, we don't necessarily have 9 retirees. It's a mixture of retirees, resignations, promotions, et cetera. But there are 9 teachers coming out of the 23-24 budget being replaced by 6 people that we don't know who they are right now. And their replacements they've mixed up. Dr. Ulmer and I usually meet depending on the subject matter, and talk about, do we want to put them in there as a B1 or an M1? Special ed typically is always an M1, and elementary teachers typically replaced at a B1. If anybody has a crystal ball and wants to tell me who they're going to be, I will listen.
Other questions from the board? I do want to point out that, and Ben had this on the top, but he didn't read it, but I want to point it out. You are not, the agenda item tonight under finances is not setting a tax increase or anything like that. It is approving the acceptance of this report, essentially where you are right now. You're accepting these figures so that we can post them publicly for 30 days. They can change for the next 30 days. We can get new updated information and put it in. You're not doing anything other than essentially accepting the report. We'll post it for 30 days prior to taking the final vote. We can still make adjustments to those 30 days. This is the next step in the process. I also want to say, and the board has heard me say this, the community needs to hear it. When you look at the sum of the line items that have grown, and you hear like the paper, which is the most extreme example, but you've heard it from all of your principals that have come in front of you and presented their budget. This one up here, this one up here, that one up there. We have controlled a lot to make it to the point that all we're asking for is 1.4%. Standard is 14% inflation right now, and some of it is, paper is at 50. And your staff, I told them, they did an amazing job to cut back on the amount of paper they use, frankly, because I told them we can't bear that cost year over year over year. And they did it, but that doesn't mean you're never going to have to buy paper.
We might have a paperless budget next year.
It's just, I know it's painful, but you heard your administrators throughout those budget presentations. They're trying to control as much as they can. And your teachers and staff are making the effort too. Just a reality at this point.
And also remember, you have locked in your utility rates. That's why you're not hearing us talk about utility rates going through the roof, because we did 3-year lock-ins a year ago. So we've kind of hedged from the upturn on that, far as gas and electric. And our primary heat source, every building we have burns gas. And we can have paperless, dark board meetings. As Dr. Ulmer stated, the proposed final budget this evening is truly just checking the box off that PD requires us to check off. Tomorrow morning, if you approve the budget, Mrs. Thomas has to sign one of the sheets essentially saying that we are displaying this budget for 30 days. Tomorrow morning, I scan it and send it to PDE, and I put it on our corkboard out front here. Next steps with the budget process is we will have real estate taxes on the next board meeting for approval. That gives us direction on how to proceed with calculating the final budget, calculating the homestead farmstead amount, and setting up the tax resolution. That reminded me, I did want to let you know, the homestead farmstead last year, if you remember this night, I came to you and I said, okay, everybody put their listening ears, we're about to talk about something real complicated. Homestead farmstead went through the roof last year. The good news is, it didn't go down. It had a slight increase of about $1,900, but it didn't go down. So homestead farmstead is built into the budget. It is where it is, what the state has certified to us, so. It didn't go down. Are there any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Enders. Thank you, Dr. Ulmer. The next thing is courtesy of the floor, which there is none for this portion. Moving on to personnel. We have an FMLA from April the 18th, 2023 through June the 2nd, 2023 for employee 2022-23-19. Kylie McKinley as a volunteer cheer coach, effective May 9th. Correction to the effective date for the resignation of Brett Whelan, the career and technical education teacher, was effective April the 12th, 2023. It was mistyped as 24 last time. FMLA from May the 4th of 2023 through June the 1st for employee 2022-23-13. Gerald Hannamaker II as a volunteer for swimming, effective May the 22nd, 2023. Linda Delaney as game staff for the athletic program. Medical leave without pay for employee 2022-23-20 for May the 19th through the end of the school year. Accepting a letter of retirement from Jeannie Gallagher, kindergarten teacher, Dershire Area Elementary, with 23 years of service to the district, effective the end of the school term. A letter of resignation from Amanda Holtz, part-time food service worker, effective May the 16th. May I have a motion for A through G and I and J?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? I heard a second.
She was first, she was second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
None in favor, like sign. Motion carries. Moving on to curriculum and instruction. An MOU between Dershire Area School District and Blast IU-17 for science curriculum. Coaching and support at $550 per day for no more than 10 days for the 23-24 school year. Purchase of Contemporary Economics 4th Student Edition. And purchase of a Venture in Food textbook, which is for both the high school and the middle school. May I have a motion for A through C?
Motion.
I'll second.
Questions or concerns?
This actually might be for Dr. Osenbach. When we order textbooks and curriculum, is it standard that it comes with like a scope and sequence that you can see exactly what it is that, I mean, obviously you can turn to the table of contents and see chapters and whatnot, but when it comes to like, you know, exactly what's going to be taught, is that standard? And if not, is it something you can request from the company when you purchase items?
Most companies do have a scope and sequence that comes with their programs, but we don't necessarily stick with that completely, depending upon what we feel as a team the sequence needs to be. In particular, like I'm thinking about math. Teachers that I've worked with in the past, in other districts and in this district, have told me, you know, it doesn't make sense that we do this before we do this, so we adjust the scope and the sequence, not the scope. We adjust the sequence of the chapters sometimes, but typically they do come with that. If you're buying a large program, like a math program or an English program or something like that, ELA.
Okay, so when I was looking at the economics program, I didn't see any scope and sequence with that. If it was available, I didn't ask for it, because it didn't really occur to me until I took the book and then looked through it and then realized there's no standard, scope and sequence there to begin with in the beginning of the text.
So when it's just, a lot of times when it's just one course like that, we make a scope and sequence in the curriculum, which wouldn't just include that one course, if you understand what I'm saying.
So you're writing your own.
So the scope and sequence might be all of social studies and not just economics.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
I do want to say, because I know this is something that the community doesn't necessarily see, so thank you for mentioning that this board does review textbooks. So it's not something I see in every school district, but I do appreciate that. We provide them, we give them copies, they do review textbooks before they approve them. So thank you for mentioning that.
Well, actually, in the future,
If there is a scope and sequence that comes with, if you're replacing like a larger curriculum, is that something that they would standardly just send you that we can also see in essence? Okay. Okay, because for the food science and anything else that I have in the past have viewed, there's never been any scope and sequence, and it never really occurred to me to ask for it. A lot of times you can tell what's being taught from the table of contents, but it's just chapter related. If you really want to dig in, I'm going to have to read the 400-page textbook to figure out what exactly is being taught in essence, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's a separate document that they'll send
Exactly.
to the people who, the administrators who are requesting.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Not in favor, like sign. Motion carries. Building and grounds, there is no discussion, action items. Moving on to finance. The PD 2028 proposed final general fund budget for the fiscal year 2023-2024. Final approval will be in June. Again, this budget will be on display for 30 days. Approval to participate in the Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust, PLIGT, Certificate of Deposit Placement Program, awarding a 23-24 copy paper bid award through CSIU to various vendors in accordance with the bid specifications for a total award of $37,121.50. Approval to participate in the WEX Fuel Fleet Program, awarding the 23-24 general supplies to various vendors, award of $4,363.87. Awarding the 23-24 art supplies to various vendors with the award of $1,596.82. May I have a motion for A through F?
so moved.
I'll second.
Angela second. The VEX fuel program, is that something new or is it a renewal?
The Lex Fuel Fleet Program is something new. We received notification that the current way we fuel our vehicles, we will not be able to do it. This is essentially a credit card program that we immediately get the liquid fuel discount on. That we would then have it's a national program, so we have a larger pool to get fuel from. So basically, all the national brands sheets are all in the program, so we can go to any sheet store and get gasoline, we can go uptown.
Any other questions or concerns?
Just so you know, the difference in the 30,000 and the 37 that you're approving, that's the color paper.
Any other concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Not in favor, like sign. Motion carries. Next, we're at miscellaneous. Renewal of all access package with PSBA for standard membership policy maintenance and training for 23-24 at a cost of $14,957.09. The following policies at a second read. Some of these we had within our policy already, but they needed to be separated. And that is policy 137, home education program, 137.1, extracurricular participation by home education students, 137.2, participation in co-curricular activities and academic courses by home education students, policy 137.3, participation in career and technical education programs by home educational students. Donation of a custom ordered toolbox for the Georgia Shore Area High School shop room. An agreement between Georgia Shore Area School District and Mary Kay, Pennsylvania, from August 1st, 2023 through July 31st, 2024. An MOU between Georgia Shore Area School District and Lackawanna College for dual enrollment. An agreement with Life Touch Portraits for the 23-24, 24-25, 25-26 school years. May I have a motion for A through F?
Second.
Questions?
I have a question about the Life Touch purchase. Is that who we had last year, or did we have?
This is a change.
Okay, because we used to have Life Touch, right?
Yep.
When we were to Interstate. Yeah, they want to go to Interstate.
Prior to me
Yeah.
being here, you did a 3-year agreement, I believe, with Interstate. And after going through all of the, Dr. Osenbach led that, but after going back through and with the vendors and having them present and provide proposals, the administrative team picked Life Touch.
Okay. So is that what our yearbook will be too, with Life Touch?
I think you have a separate yearbook agreement.
Yeah, that's Justin's.
Yeah.
That's the yearbook publisher, but the pictures will be downloaded to the yearbook. The Life Touch will send the disc to them.
Is that true for all of the schools? I feel like I ordered the elementary school yearbook through
Yearbook is.
Interstate.
The yearbook is only the high school yearbook, and that is bid out. I think we did it last year.
Okay.
And that is through Justin's. This is essentially the district photographer. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yes, yeah.
And they provide, no, they do middle school? I know they do the elementary schools.
Yeah,
Like-
they do those.
Oh, this would be all schools, yep.
Any other questions?
Letter C, the donation of the toolbox. Who donated it?
That was the local, I read this, I signed the form. It was the local Army recruiter. And it was in recognition for one of our students that had, I think, worked with him or been through his recruitment process. And so he personally donated that in recognition of a student.
Which shop will it be in?
I believe he intended it for auto shop.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Not in favor, like sign. Motion carries. Old business? Anyone have anything for, there's nothing written, anyone have anything for old business? Moving on to courtesy of the floor. This courtesy of the floor will be for public comment on non-agenda items. State your name, address, and identify what you would like to address, and you will have 3 minutes. There was one person that did sign up. This is not required in this one, Kate Butzler on sophomore parking.
Hello, my name is Kate Butzler. I live in Porter Township and I am a sophomore at Jersey Shore High School. I would like the school board to consider allowing sophomores to purchase parking passes to park at the high school. Right now, only juniors and seniors are allowed to buy them. I got my license in December and have been unable to drive to school. I am a 3-sport athlete and involved in other extracurricular activities that meet after school. I realize parking is limited. Here are a few ways to allow sophomores with their license to drive to school. Sophomores with driver's license that meet one or more of the following can buy a parking pass: have over a 93% GPA, are in after-school activities, have a job that starts after school. Also, I would like to bring your attention to the end school zone signs hanging on the track fence. I parked beyond the sign assuming it was not in the school zone and I got a ticket. If it's not in the school zone, then I should be allowed to park there like I would anywhere in town. It's very misleading. My sophomore year is almost over, so a change in policy won't affect me. I am asking you all to consider a change in policy for my younger classmates. Also, since passes cost $20 each, there would be more money coming in from selling parking passes to sophomores. It's a win-win. I am more than happy to discuss other ideas to help sophomores with driver's license to get a parking pass with board members, Dr. Ulmer, or the high school principals. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
can I speak because I got here late?
Yeah, anybody can speak now, but she did.
This is kind of an informative session for the school board. And Mrs. Thomas, I'm going to ask for the rare occasion to go 5 minutes because I think this has to do with crossing guards and student school safety. Students. I will sit down after 5 minutes. Okay? There was text went out to all the, now the school district with the administration is trying to do the rights they want. And the reason I have had the crossing guards park on my street, you will find very little traffic from Broad up to Bastrop that parks on the street because it's very busy twice a day with it. The lady that resigned, the Robin Wall, she dang near got hit about 2 weeks ago by a car because of a careless driver. And receiving that notice with it, that the crossing guard should park the cars out on the street someplace. Not a good idea. They need a place that they can retreat to that is safe. And I have given every one of the crossing guards their permission to park in my driveway. And the person from the administration who submitted that text and advice to the school crossing guards is out of line. Can't do that. There is a need for an essential crossing guard on my corner twice a day, especially in the afternoon. With no guard there right now, I see kids crossing the street without looking or anything like that. They do bring a guard when the crossing, when the school bus drivers, when the school buses come around, which are about 12 to 14. I live on the corner of Mount Pleasant, so I see what's going on. Anybody that hasn't been, declares that corner non-essential, that a crossing guard shouldn't be there, does not know what they're talking about, and totally out of touch. I invite every one of the board, including the administration, who put this text out, to come to come and view what goes on in the morning from 7 o'clock till 8:30 and from about 2 till 3:30 in the afternoon. The administration has been burying a problem that's been brewing for a long time. You do not have enough crossing guards to man everything. I seen in the old days where the administration and even a problem here, you cannot get guards. For what those guards go through, you sent out, you drove off a good lady who really cared. And if you had a problem with it, I know what it resulted in, why you did it.
All right.
From my
Mr.
phone call before.
Mr. Schreiber.
You should have come talk to me.
Thank you for staying within your 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak for the board?
Good evening. Anne-Marie Furman, Watson Township. Tonight, when Mr. Enders was speaking, he mentioned about 9 teachers going to be removed and 6 teachers being replaced, with option C being chosen, right? So, and I don't know if my memory is recollecting correctly. Am I recalling correctly that last summer, late summer, early fall, that we hired 5 teachers, of which 3 were new positions? I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly.
Off memory, I don't believe we added 3 last year. I think it was 1.
So we added, you believe we
I think
added
it was
1?
1 last year and 2 the year before.
Okay. So with that, it's not equaling, it's not equaling out 1 for 1, but the reality is, we're not saving 3 positions, right? I mean, we've already absorbed some new positions as teachers. So the cost savings that was presented with not having so many teachers is not a true cost savings, right? So I was trying to remember if I was remembering right and trying to get the numbers right and trying to understand all of what was been said over the last few weeks. So I appreciate that information. Thank you.
As a clarification, we have 3 less teachers in the budget this year than we had in last year's budget.
Right, I understand that, but when you look at the big picture, right, we've already created some teacher positions that weren't there prior.
Well,
So
only 1.
one last year, and then he believes 2 the previous year. So right there's 3 new positions of teachers in the last 2 years
That are no longer in the budget.
that are no longer in the budget.
Just as a
No, I mean-
clarification, I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
You sounded
no.
to me like you were saying we were basically even, but we're kind of not. We are 3 less positions.
We are 3 less positions within a very short period of time, is what I'm trying to say, right?
Thank you for the clarification. Anyone else?
Bill Furman, Watson Township. This is regarding CRSE, culturally relevant and sustaining education. We are at a crossroads in Pennsylvania with our education system. Teachers are leaving the profession. Parents are pulling their children from the public school system because of wokeism, continuing to be brought into the classrooms. As school board representatives, I am sure you know the Pennsylvania Department of Education is implementing in the upcoming school year the Culturally Relevant and Sustaining Education Program Framework, CRSE. The PDE claims this is not critical race theory, but it is by a different name. These guidelines create hatred, separation, and are a blatant attempt to impose woke activism into school curriculum. These guidelines encourage educators to reflect on their own life experiences and biases and acknowledge that biases exist in the education system. Since when do we teach personal biases? Since when is it okay to teach hate and division? School board members and administrators, I strongly encourage a stance to be taken for our teachers and children and for a motion to be made and vote conducted to join the lawsuit with the Western Pennsylvania School Districts of Laurel, Mars, and Pencrest school districts in challenging the PDE's culturally relevant CRSE program. Keep this out of our school districts. This is something we cannot delay on. We need to act now. We must draw the line. We cannot compromise our children's education and futures anymore. We need to stop the overreach of the PDE and the governor's office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sherry Peters. I'm a resident of Waterville, Cummings Township. I regret to have heard the recent visceral attacks against some of you over the school consolidation issue. I am hopeful that chapter is now behind us and we're prepared to move forward and focus upon other important matters. My belief is that the elephant in the room and on the minds of nearly every parent in the district has been what our children will be taught in the months and years ahead. Some of you are aware of very recent federal and state mandates that may or will directly impact our curriculum. Number one is Pennsylvania House Bill 300, the Fairness Act, which is now headed to our state Senate. Number two, the U.S. Department of Education's recent change to Title IX, which now requires transgender males to be permitted entry into many female sports and presumably be permitted in their team locker rooms. And finally, number three, the Pennsylvania Department of Education's Culturally Relevant and Sustaining Education, or CRSE, to name a few. These come from federal or state departments of education and are a blatant attempt to impose woke activism into our school curriculum and undermine local school boards' authority. Time does not permit me to address all of these, so I have chosen to bring to the board's attention CRSE, or CURSE, a fitting acronym. This is simply critical race theory by another name. It requires that all public school teachers be trained in such concepts as racial privilege and culturally supportive spaces, and to accept as fact the evils of, quote, microaggressions, unquote. It naturally includes the promotion of gender identity. These ideas are then expected to be incorporated into our children's curriculum. This program is divisive and at its very core creates hostility and mistrust among people of different races, backgrounds, and classes. It also goes against the core moral beliefs of many of our teachers, parents, students, and the vast majority of district residents. We must get involved now before more teachers feel compelled to retire and more parents decide to take their children out of our public school system. Frankly, knowing these mandates are waiting in the wings, who could blame them? Therefore, I'm asking the Jersey Shore School Board to place on their May 22nd agenda an item to vote on either joining, becoming an intervener, or at least filing a, quote, friend of the court, unquote, brief in a lawsuit filed 3 weeks ago against the PA Department of Education on behalf of 3 Pennsylvania school districts. We have provided Dr. Ulmer with the representing attorney's contact information. There will be no legal fees charged to the district on behalf of the law firm representing the case. We cannot sit on the sidelines and remain silent to watch this play out. We must get in the game. We need to send a strong collective message to the State Department of Education and a reassuring message to the teachers, parents, and students of our district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Ulmer. I really wasn't going to speak tonight, but I just wanted, after the budget presentation by Mr. Enders.
And
is
introduce
that
yourself.
Oh, Steve Helm, Piatt Township, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Everybody knows me. So is it okay to address or ask Mr. Enders questions? I just want to clarify, a small budget surplus for this year ending, is it correct, of $34,000. And we saw an increase, or that the earned income is $400,000 more than what was projected, correct? Okay. And we saw an increase in state funding.
That's correct.
Okay, coming to, and yet you're recommending that we raise taxes anyway, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So does that not point, does that not actually paint a picture that we aren't really financially stable even with those increases and the increases in state funding and the surplus in earned income and et cetera? We're going to raise property taxes for every resident in this district, is that correct?
It's a recommendation. at this point.
Okay. But that's to be able to secure a budget for the next incoming year, right?
I guess I don't understand the question.
We're going to raise taxes, even though we have an increase or a surplus from this year's budget and with state aid or state money coming in, which is tax money. We're going to raise the property taxes because we need to close the gap that much more. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. So are we actually going to realize any savings from the selection of option C?
Well, yes, I mean, there's 3 staff members that have been eliminated from next year's budget.
But in the present, okay, correct. I understand that. I saw the bait and switch there with the, whatever you want to call it. The 6, the 9, whatever it is. But wasn't option C projected to result in a reduction of staff of 7 to 8 teachers?
That is correct, but those were, remember, we said over time when people leave. It could not all be done at one time. It has to be done over time as people exit.
Okay. But, I mean, basically, we're raising taxes in order to close the gap in our budget, is that correct? I mean, that's the bottom line. Or potentially raising taxes, depending what option the board chooses now. So I just want to make sure that I put the emphasis on that because, you chose option C, you had other options available that may have resulted in a greater amount of savings over time. And, I mean, I understand it takes time to make those changes and have things come into effect, but I also understand that we're potentially raising taxes regardless. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ray Beerley, Pyatt Township. I was an educator in this district for 26 years. I've lived in this district my entire life. And as we look around this room, one of the things that we don't see is a lot of diversity in the population in this room. And there's not a lot of diversity evident at our high school and some of our other schools as well. However, there is diversity present. There are people of different genders, obviously. There are people of different religions. There are people of different ethnicities. There are people of different races, except as a biology teacher, I like to acknowledge that races don't exist biologically. That's just a human construct. We just made that up. There are differences in sexual orientation. And there are problems associated with those differences, because I have heard many parents come to this podium and talk about the bullying that goes on in our schools. And a lot of times bullying is a result of we don't like people that are a little bit different from us. It's just a natural kid thing, and we target things that are different. And I welcome wholeheartedly any program being brought into our schools that helps educate our children about how to better deal with people that are different than we are. To be accepting and welcoming, no matter your race, no matter your religion, no matter your sexual orientation, no matter whether you're male, no matter whether you're female. But because we are caring human beings that respect one another. And to be fearful of a program that isn't even really in place yet, to me is foolhardy. Helping our children deal with differences and recognizing how important it is to be empathetic to each other is a wonderful thing, and I fully support this program. Thank you.
Obviously, it can be done through many avenues, and it doesn't necessarily need to be this one. I don't know that we know enough about it at this point, but it needs looked into.
Yeah.
Anyone else that would like to speak? Seeing none, for courtesy, the floor is closed. Next, we have an adjournment. A reminder, there will be an executive session in which no further business will be discussed. The session is on personnel, specifically teacher negotiations.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to vote, thank you for the vote you made about closing the schools.
Yes.
I did that back